It's not stealing if the cat came to me, Karen shouted, clutching the frightened tabby kitten to her chest as the bewildered pet shop owner stared in disbelief. The chime of the bell had barely faded when Karen burst through the door, her wild eyes and flushed cheeks betraying the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had barged past the teenage clerk and made a beeline for the cat enclosure, single-mindedly focused on the sleek gray feline peering back at her. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You can't just take one of our pets without paying," the owner said sternly, his hand reaching for the phone to call the police. Karen's grip tightened, her knuckles turning white. "No, you don't understand. That cat wanted to come home with me. It's fate." She took a step back, eyeing the exit warily. The owner shook his head in disbelief. "I'm sorry, but you're going to have to put the cat back and leave. If you refuse, I'll have no choice but to call the authorities." Panic flickered across Karen's face as she weighed her options. She had never been one to back down, especially when she was certain she was in the right. With a defiant toss of her head, she made her decision. "You can't keep me from my destiny. This cat and I were meant to be together," she declared, clutching the kitten closer. Before the stunned owner could react, she turned and fled out the door, disappearing into the bustling city street. The owner stared after her, dumbfounded. What had just happened? 1 minute, the shop was quiet. The next, a crazed woman had stormed in and stolen one of his kittens. He shook his head and grabbed the phone, quickly dialing the police. Meanwhile, Karen raced down the sidewalk, her heart pounding in her ears. She couldn't believe she had actually gone through with it. She had never stolen anything in her life, but there was just something about that cat that had called to her. It was as if the universe itself had willed them to be together. As she rounded the corner, she finally slowed to a brisk walk, checking over her shoulder to make sure she hadn't been followed. The kitten mewed pitifully in her arms, and she cooed soothingly, trying to calm it. "Shh. It's okay, little one. You're safe with me now. I know it must be scary, but I promised I'll take good care of you." She smiled down at the trembling ball of fur, her gaze softening. Karen had always wanted a cat, but her husband, Mark, had been adamantly against it. He was allergic, he'd said, and the fur would get everywhere. But Karen had persisted, convinced that a cat was the missing piece in their lives. Now, with the kitten cradled in her arms, she felt a sense of rightness she had never known. As she neared her apartment, Karen's steps quickened. She couldn't wait to introduce her new feline companion to Mark. He was going to be furious, of course, but Karen was certain she could win him over. After all, how could anyone resist such a cute and cuddly kitten? Karen's heart raced as she fumbled with her keys, the kitten squirming in her arms. She couldn't wait to see the look on Mark's face when she introduced him to their new furry friend. As soon as she stepped through the door, she called out, "Honey, I'm home. And I've got a surprise for you." Mark emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "A surprise? What is it?" His brow furrowed as he noticed the bundle of fur in Karen's arms. "Wait, is that a cat?" Karen exclaimed, beaming. "Isn't he just the cutest thing you've ever seen?" She held the kitten out to Mark, who instinctively took a step back. "Karen, what is the meaning of this?" Mark's voice was laced with alarm. "Where did you get that thing?" "I got him from the pet shop down the street," Karen replied, her smile unwavering. "Isn't he wonderful? I know you said you were allergic, but I'm sure we can make it work. He's already stolen my heart, and I'm sure he'll steal yours too." Mark's face reddened as he stared at the kitten, which was now squirming in Karen's arms, mewing plaintively. "You mean to tell me you went and bought a cat without my permission?" "Karen, that's not how this works. We're supposed to make decisions together." Karen's brow furrowed, and she clutched the kitten closer to her chest. "But it wasn't like that. The cat came to me, Mark. It was fate. I couldn't just leave him there." "Fate?" Mark scoffed. "Karen, you can't just steal a cat from a pet shop and claim it was fate. That's called theft, and it's illegal. Karen's eyes narrowed, and she opened her mouth to argue, but Mark held up a hand, silencing her. No, Karen. I don't want to hear it. You need to take that cat back to the shop immediately. I won't have stolen property in our home. Karen's grip on the kitten tightened, and her jaw set with determination. I'm not taking him back. He's mine now, and I'm keeping him. You can't make me get rid of him. Mark's eyes widened in disbelief. Karen, are you serious? This is not up for discussion. That cat doesn't belong to you, and you need to return it before the police get involved. The kitten let out a pitiful meow, and Karen's heart clenched. She couldn't bear the thought of separating them. No, Mark, I won't do it. This cat is meant to be with me, and I'm not going to let you take that away from me. Mark stared at her, his expression a mixture of frustration and concern. Karen, you're being unreasonable. This is not how we solve problems in this household. Now, please, for the sake of our home and our relationship, take the cat back to the shop. Karen's resolve hardened, and she shook her head defiantly. I'm sorry, Mark, but I've made up my mind. This cat is staying with me, and that's final. The tension in the room was palpable as the two of them stared each other down, neither willing to back down. The kitten's plaintive meows only added to the unease, as if the little creature could sense the brewing storm. The standoff between Karen and Mark seemed to stretch on for an eternity, the air thick with tension. The kitten's soft mews only served to heighten the drama, as if the little creature could sense the impending conflict. Finally, Mark let out a heavy sigh, pinching the bridge of his nose. All right, Karen, let's try to approach this rationally. I understand you've grown attached to the cat, but we can't just keep it. It's not ours, and it was wrong of you to take it in the first place. Karen opened her mouth to protest, but Mark raised a hand, silencing her. Please just hear me out. I know how much you've wanted a pet, and I'll admit that I've been a little stubborn about it. But this isn't the right way to go about it. He took a step closer, his expression softening. Look, I promise we can go down to the pet shop together and see if they have any cats that need a home. We can adopt one properly, together, as a family. But we have to take this one back. It's the right thing to do. Karen's grip on the kitten relaxed slightly, and she chewed on her bottom lip, considering Mark's words. A part of her knew he was right, that what she had done was wrong. But the thought of parting with the little feline tugged at her heartstrings. I just can't, Mark. This cat, it's like he's meant to be with me. I can't explain it, but I feel this connection. I know it sounds crazy, but I just can't take him back. Her voice wavered, and she clutched the kitten closer. Mark's brow furrowed, and he took another step forward, reaching out to gently place a hand on Karen's arm. I understand, honey, I really do. But you have to understand that this isn't just about us. There are rules and laws and consequences. If you keep this cat, you could get in serious trouble. Karen's eyes darted away, a flash of guilt passing over her features. I know. But I can't. I'm sorry, Mark, but I'm keeping him. I'll find a way to make it work, I promise. Mark's hand fell away, and he shook his head, his expression a mix of disappointment and concern. Karen, this isn't like you. I don't know what's come over you, but I can't condone this kind of behavior. If you insist on keeping the cat, then I'm afraid I can't support you. Karen's eyes widened, and she took a step back, the kitten squirming in her arms. What are you saying, Mark? Are you threatening to leave me? Mark raised his hands in a placating gesture. No, of course not. I'm not threatening anything. I'm just saying that I can't be a part of this. It's wrong, and it's illegal, and I won't be a part of it. I hope you can understand that. Karen's brow furrowed, and she could feel the familiar sting of tears in her eyes. But Mark, I need you. I need your support. Please, You have to understand. This cat, he's a part of me now." Mark's expression softened, and he reached out to gently wipe a tear from Karen's cheek. "I know, honey. I know how much you want this. But sometimes we have to make difficult choices, even when they hurt. I can't help you keep this cat, but I'm here for you. I'll always be here for you." Karen's shoulders slumped, and she nodded slowly, the weight of the situation bearing down on her. As much as she wanted to keep the kitten, she couldn't ignore the reality of the situation. She knew Mark was right, but the thought of parting with the little feline was almost more than she could bear. The car ride back to the pet shop was a somber one. Karen clutched the kitten close, her eyes fixed on the passing scenery as Mark drove in tense silence. The tiny feline had seemingly picked up on the heavy atmosphere, its once playful meows now subdued and uncertain. As they pulled up to the familiar storefront, Karen's grip tightened, her knuckles turning white. She didn't want to do this, but deep down, she knew Mark was right. This wasn't her cat, and she had no right to take it. Still, the thought of handing the kitten over filled her with a profound sense of loss. "We're here," Mark said quietly, placing a gentle hand on Karen's shoulder. "It's time to make this right." Karen nodded, her throat tight with emotion. Slowly, she opened the car door and stepped out, the kitten cradled against her chest. Mark followed close behind, his expression unreadable. The bell chimed as they entered the shop, and the owner's head snapped up, his eyes widening with recognition. "You! I was just about to call the police." He stepped out from behind the counter, his brow furrowed in a mix of anger and relief. Karen swallowed hard, her gaze downcast. I'm sorry. I know what I did was wrong, and I'm here to make it right." She held out the kitten, its wide eyes blinking up at the owner. The man's expression softened slightly, and he reached out to take the cat from Karen's trembling hands. "Well, I'm glad you've come to your senses. I was about to file a report." He paused, his gaze shifting to Mark. "And you're the husband, I presume?" Mark nodded, offering an apologetic smile. "Yes, sir. I'm terribly sorry for the trouble my wife has caused. Please, let us make this right." The owner nodded, cradling the kitten close. "Well, I appreciate you both coming in to return the cat. I'm just glad it's safe." He eyed Karen warily, then gestured to the counter. "If you'll just come over here, we can take care of the paperwork." Karen followed the owner, her shoulders slumped in defeat. As she filled out the necessary forms, her heart sank with each stroke of the pen. She couldn't believe she was actually doing this, giving up the one thing that had felt so right, so destined. Once the paperwork was complete, the owner nodded, his expression softening slightly. "Well, I'm glad we could resolve this amicably. I hope there won't be any further issues." He paused, glancing down at the kitten, which was now curled contentedly in his arms. "You know, if you're still interested in a cat, we do have a few other options available." Karen's head snapped up, a glimmer of hope flickering in her eyes. "Really? I mean, we would be honored to adopt one properly, if you'll have us." The owner nodded, the ghost of a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "I think that can be arranged. Let's take a look, shall we?" As the owner led them to the cat enclosure, Karen felt a surge of excitement. Maybe this wasn't the end of her dream after all. With Mark by her side, she was determined to find the perfect feline companion, one that would truly be theirs. The following days were filled with a palpable tension in the household. Karen, still reeling from the loss of the kitten she had so desperately wanted, walked through the apartment with a heavy heart. Mark, on the other hand, seemed relieved that the ordeal was over, though he couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for his wife's obvious distress. Despite their agreement to properly adopt a cat together, the enthusiasm Karen had initially shown had diminished. She would sit on the couch, staring listlessly out the window, occasionally letting out a heavy sigh. Mark tried to engage her, suggesting they visit the pet shop again, but Karen would simply shake her head, her eyes downcast. One evening, as they sat down for dinner, the tension in the air was palpable. Karen picked at her food, her mind clearly elsewhere. Finally, Mark couldn't take the silence any longer. Karen, honey, I know this has been hard on you, but we really should go back to the pet shop soon. I think it would be good for us to find a cat that we can call our own. Karen looked up, her brow furrowed. I don't know, Mark. I can't stop thinking about that kitten. It felt so right, you know. I just have this feeling that he was meant to be with me. Mark reached across the table, taking Karen's hand in his. I understand, Karen. I know how much you wanted that cat. But what you did was wrong, and you know that. We have to move forward and do this the right way. Karen sighed, her eyes filling with tears. I know. It's just, I feel like I've lost something, you know. Like a part of me is missing. Mark gave her hand a gentle squeeze. I know, sweetheart. But think of it this way. Now we have the chance to find the perfect cat for us, one that we can love and care for together. Doesn't that sound exciting? Karen nodded, wiping at her eyes with her free hand. I guess you're right. It's just, I can't help but wonder what happened to that kitten. Is he happy? Is he being taken care of? Mark offered her a sympathetic smile. I'm sure he's in good hands now, Karen. The pet shop owner seemed like a responsible guy. And who knows, maybe we'll even see him again when we go pick out our own cat. Karen managed a small smile, squeezing Mark's hand in return. Okay, let's do it. Let's go to the pet shop tomorrow and find our new furry friend. The next day, the couple made their way to the familiar storefront, their steps a bit lighter than the last time they had been there. As they entered, the bell chimed, and the owner looked up, a wary expression on his face. Ah, welcome back. I must say, I'm surprised to see you two again so soon. Karen stepped forward, a sheepish smile on her face. Yes, well, we'd like to adopt a cat, if you'll have us. The owner's expression softened, and he nodded. Well, that's certainly a better approach than the last time you were here. He gestured toward the cat enclosure. Please, feel free to take a look and let me know if anything catches your eye. Karen and Mark moved toward the glass, their eyes scanning the various felines, each one more adorable than the last. As they peered into the enclosure, a familiar gray tabby caught Karen's eye, and her breath caught in her throat. Karen's heart leaped as she recognized the familiar gray tabby kitten peering back at her from the cat enclosure. A flood of emotions washed over her, relief, guilt, and a glimmer of hope. Mark, look. It's him, the kitten from the other day, she breathed, her eyes locked on the feline. Mark followed her gaze, a puzzled expression crossing his features. Are you sure, Karen? I mean, there are a lot of gray cats out there. The owner, who had been watching the couple from a distance, stepped forward. Ah, yes, that would be the very same kitten you acquired the other day. His tone was neutral, but a hint of amusement danced in his eyes. Karen turned to him, her expression hopeful. Does that mean I can still adopt him? I promise I'll do it the right way this time. The owner's brow furrowed, and he let out a contemplative hum. Well, I must say, I'm a bit surprised to see you back so soon, and after the stunt you pulled. But, he paused, his gaze drifting back to the kitten, who was now pawing playfully at the glass. I suppose I could be convinced to let you take him home, provided you make it official this time. Karen's face lit up, and she clasped her hands together in a silent plea. Oh, thank you. I promise we'll do everything by the book. Right, Mark? Mark, who had been watching the exchange with a mix of amusement and concern, nodded slowly. Yes, of course. We'll make sure to follow all the proper procedures this time. The owner nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. All right then. Let's get the paperwork sorted out, shall we? As the trio moved to the counter, Karen couldn't contain her excitement. This was her second chance, her opportunity to right the wrong she had committed. She would make sure to do everything properly, to prove to Mark and the owner that she was worthy of this kitten. Once the necessary forms were filled out and the adoption fee was paid, the owner retrieved the kitten from the enclosure, handing the bundle of fur to Karen. The kitten immediately began to purr, snuggling into her embrace. "Looks like he remembers you," the owner chuckled, handing Karen a bag of supplies. "Here's everything you'll need to get him settled in at home. I trust you'll take good care of him this time." Karen nodded enthusiastically, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I will, I promise. Thank you so much for giving me another chance." As they made their way back to the car, the kitten contentedly curled up in Karen's arms, Mark couldn't help but feel a sense of cautious optimism. Perhaps this would be the fresh start they needed, an opportunity to build a bond with a new furry friend. "So, what are you going to name him?" Mark asked, glancing over at Karen, who was already cooing softly to the kitten. Karen paused, a thoughtful expression crossing her features. How about Oreo? He's got such a cute little tuxedo pattern, don't you think?" Mark chuckled, reaching over to gently scratch the kitten under the chin. "Oreo it is then. Welcome to the family, little guy." As they pulled out of the parking lot, Karen felt a sense of relief and excitement wash over her. This time, she was determined to do things the right way, to cherish and care for Oreo as he deserved. The past was behind them, and the future was full of endless possibilities. Over the next few weeks, Karen and Mark settled into a comfortable routine with their new feline companion, Oreo. The kitten's playful antics and affectionate cuddles quickly won over both of their hearts, and the initial tension surrounding his adoption had all but dissipated. Karen, in particular, seemed to have a newfound appreciation for the proper adoption process. She doted on Oreo, making sure he had everything he needed, from a cozy cat bed to an array of toys to keep him entertained. She even went so far as to research the best foods and supplements to ensure his health and well-being. Mark, for his part, had been pleasantly surprised by how well the transition had gone. He had initially been apprehensive about the idea of owning a cat, given his allergies, but Oreo seemed to be a low-shedding breed that didn't trigger his symptoms too badly. Plus, the joy he witnessed in Karen's eyes every time she played with the kitten was enough to melt his heart. One evening, as the couple relaxed on the couch, Oreo curled up contentedly between them. Karen turned to Mark, a thoughtful expression on her face. "You know, I can't help but feel guilty about what happened at the pet shop. I know I did the wrong thing, and I'm so grateful that the owner was willing to give me another chance." Mark nodded, reaching over to gently scratch Oreo behind the ears. "I know, honey, but the important thing is that you learned from it and you're doing the right thing now. Oreo is part of our family, and that's what matters." Karen sighed, her gaze drifting to the sleeping kitten. "I just can't help but wonder about the other cats at the shop. There are so many of them, and I can't stop thinking about how some of them might not have a loving home to go to." Mark considered her words for a moment, then an idea began to take shape in his mind. "You know, Karen, that's not a bad idea. Maybe we could look into volunteering at the pet shop to help care for the other cats and maybe even find them forever homes." Karen's eyes widened, and she sat up a little straighter. "Really? You think that's something we could do?" Mark nodded, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Absolutely. I think it would be a great way for us to give back, and it might even help you feel a little better about what happened." Karen reached over and squeezed Mark's hand, her own eyes shining with gratitude. "Oh, Mark, that's a wonderful idea. I'd love to do that. Maybe we could even bring Oreo along sometimes so he can play with the other cats." Mark chuckled, imagining the chaos that would ensue. "I'm sure the owner would appreciate that. And who knows, maybe we can even help Oreo make some new friends." As the couple continued to discuss their newfound volunteer plans, Oreo stirred, his eyes blinking open. He let out a soft meow, as if sensing the excitement in the air, and Karen couldn't resist scooping him up and snuggling him close. You hear that, Oreo? We're going to help your friends at the pet shop. Isn't that wonderful? She cooed, peppering the kitten's head with affectionate kisses. Oreo responded with a contented purr, and in that moment, Karen knew that her decision to adopt him had been the right one. This was her chance to make amends, to pay it forward, and help other animals in need. With Mark by her side, she was ready to embark on this new chapter, one that would hopefully bring joy and comfort to both her family and the pets they would help. A few months had passed since Karen and Mark had started volunteering at the pet shop, and the experience had been nothing short of transformative. What had initially begun as a way for Karen to make amends had quickly blossomed into a genuine passion project for the couple. Each week, they would arrive at the shop, Oreo and Tao, ready to lend a hand with whatever tasks were needed. Karen would happily scoop litter, refill food and water bowls, and groom the cats, while Mark took on the more physically demanding jobs like cleaning the enclosures and restocking supplies. But their impact went far beyond the daily chores. Karen and Mark had quickly become the shop's most dedicated volunteers, working tirelessly to find forever homes for the cats in their care. They would share the animals' profiles on social media, host adoption events, and even open their own home to potential adopters, ensuring each cat found the perfect match. Their efforts did not go unnoticed. The pet shop owner, who had once been wary of the couple, now greeted them with a warm smile and genuine appreciation. He marveled at the transformation he had witnessed in Karen, who had gone from a reckless impulse buyer to a devoted advocate for the animals. One day, as Karen was brushing a fluffy calico cat, the owner approached her, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, Karen, I have to say, I'm truly impressed by the work you and Mark have been doing here. It's made a world of difference, not just for the cats, but for the whole community." Karen looked up, a surprised smile spreading across her face. "Oh, well, thank you. It's been such a pleasure to be a part of this, Oreo, and I just love coming here and spending time with all the animals." The owner nodded, glancing over at Oreo, who was currently napping in a sunbeam. "Speaking of Oreo, I've noticed how much he's grown and thrived since you've brought him home. He's a lucky little guy to have found such a loving family." Karen's smile widened, and she gently ran her fingers through the calico's soft fur. "Well, we're the lucky ones, really. Oreo has brought so much joy and laughter into our lives. I can't imagine what it would be like without him." The owner chuckled, his eyes twinkling. "I'm sure that's true. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about something." He paused, clasping his hands together. "How would you and Mark feel about taking on a more formal role here at the shop? We could use someone with your passion and dedication to help manage the day-to-day operations and oversee the volunteer program." Karen's eyes grew wide, and she nearly dropped the brush in her hand. "Wait, are you serious? You want us to work here?" The owner nodded, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Absolutely. I think you two would be the perfect fit. And of course, Oreo would always be welcome to join you." Karen felt a surge of excitement, her mind racing with the possibilities. She had never imagined that her impulsive decision to steal a kitten would lead to such a rewarding opportunity. But here she was, being offered a chance to make a real difference in the lives of animals, all thanks to the lessons she had learned. "Oh my goodness, yes. Mark and I would be honored to take on this role. This is it's incredible. Thank you so much." The owner chuckled, reaching out to give Karen's shoulder a gentle squeeze. "Wonderful. I'll let Mark know the good news, and we can start getting everything sorted out." As the owner walked away, Karen couldn't contain her grin. She looked down at Oreo, who had stirred from his nap and was now peering up at her with his big, adoring eyes. "Can you believe it, Oreo? We get to be a part of this amazing place, helping all your friends find their forever homes. This is going to be the start of something truly special. I just know it." Oreo let out a soft meow, as if in agreement, and Karen couldn't help but scoop him up and hug him close. The journey had been a rocky one, but in the end, it had all led her to this moment. A chance to make amends, to give back, and to create a better life for both herself and the countless animals she would have the privilege of caring for. With Oreo by her side and Mark's unwavering support, Karen knew that the future was bright, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a life truly worth living.